Have you ever wondered why some habits are so difficult to change, why doing them requires no conscious thought, and why changing that behavior is so difficult? A common perception in Western culture, particularly here in the US, is that failure to overcome a bad habit somehow means that you don't really want to change or that you simply aren't trying hard enough. While motivation certainly plays a role in your habits, physiology is a key factor that is not well understood by many people. There's no magic formula for eliminating bad habits, and any diet, fitness, or other self-help program that claims it can show you how to do just that is lying. In fact, the idea of eliminating any habits at all is a fallacy. Once the neural pathways that create a habit are formed in your brain, they never go away. The habit may weaken over time or be overpowered by a new, stronger one, but it never disappears. That's why it's so easy to pick a habit back up, even if you haven't been doing it for months, or even years. The common phrase, "it's just like riding a bike," is actually true. Once you have done something thousands of times, to the point that you can literally do it without thinking about it, at least consciously, you can stop doing it for many years and still pick it up with almost no learning curve. Many habits initially form due to convenience at the time, but quickly become the norm. Do you regularly stop at the same gas station on your way home from work to fill up? Chances are you stopped there the first time for a specific reason, and you continue to simply stop there because of habit. Do you tend to cycle through the same 7 or 8 outfits in your closet, even though you have another 10 or 12 or 20 that fit and look just as good? It's probably simply out of habit. When you want to replace a habit with something less destructive, more useful, or more in line with your goals, you need to intentionally design a new habit that actually has a chance of sticking. How do you design a new habit, you ask? When you understand how habits are formed and how the components fit together, it's much easier to create a habit that has at least a fighting chance of replacing the one that is not helping you. In his book, The Power of Habit, author Charles Duhigg describes the process for breaking an existing habit down into its component parts and using that information to design a new habit. Be aware, this is a process. As I mentioned before, there's no quick fix to replacing a habit you've spent months or often years reinforcing in your brain. You must be willing to put forth some effort. If you're not, you can stop watching this video right now. But if you are, this process can work. The components of every habit in your brain are cue, routine, reward. The first step is to identify the routine that is causing the problem. This step is usually the easiest part of the process because it's the most obvious. Let's say you have a habit of checking Facebook too often while you're at work, and it's affecting your productivity. That behavior would be the routine that you are using to give yourself some kind of reward. Step 2 is to identify the craving that is driving the reward-seeking behavior. To figure this out, you need to come up with a few different hypotheses of what desire is driving the behavior, and then come up with a few different rewards to test them. In our Facebook example, you might guess that your habit is a response to either boredom, avoidance of a certain task or type of work, or a craving for human interaction. For each of these hypotheses, you would identify a replacement reward that satisfies each of those potential cravings. For example, if the habit is truly a desire for human interaction, when you find yourself clicking onto your Facebook page, get up from your desk and go talk to a friend for a few minutes instead. Then, immediately after giving yourself the alternate reward, write down on a piece of paper the first 3 or 4 feelings or ideas or things that pop into your mind. Don't worry if they seem random, they're just mental triggers for you to use later when reviewing your different responses to the various rewards. After you've done this brain dump, set a timer for 15 minutes. When the timer goes off, notice whether you still have the original craving. If the answer is yes, then whichever reward you tested is not the object of your craving. Keep repeating this process until you're confident you have identified the craving that is the source of the habit. Once you know that, you can move on to step 3 of the process, which is to find the cue that is triggering the habit. There are practically an infinite number of things that can trigger a habit, but they generally fall into one of these major categories. Where was I? What time was it? What was my emotional state? What other people did I interact with, including phone calls, emails, text messages, etc.? What happened or what was I doing? The process for finding the cue that drives your habit is to notice every time the craving gets triggered and then immediately write down your answer to each of those questions. Once you have collected some data on your habit, and the amount you need will vary with each habit, you can review it to look for patterns that tell you what in your environment or in your mind is triggering the habit. In our Facebook example, if you've determined that the craving that drives your habit is a desire for human interaction, you might find that it's triggered by a task that you don't enjoy. Armed with this knowledge, you can move on to the final phase of the habit design process, designing a replacement habit. The idea is to create what's called an implementation intention for your new habit. It's basically a micro plan that states what you will do when the craving gets triggered. Using our Facebook habit as an example, you could design that plan that says, whenever I complete task XYZ, I'll walk over to a friend's desk and chat for 5 minutes. Following through on your implementation intentions is made easier if it is time-based, in which case you can set a reminder for yourself. For anything else, it'll take some practice for you to notice the trigger and make a conscious choice to follow through with your plan. But every time you do remember, you'll be building a new neural pattern in your brain that will eventually replace the old one. Don't expect instant results or get upset with yourself when it doesn't happen. You didn't build your existing habit overnight, so it'll take time and effort to replace it. Please leave a comment below to let me know what habits you've been able to design in your life. If you have a specific motivation challenge you'd like help with, you can contact me directly at rich@themotivationmindset.com. If you like this video, please click the like button and consider subscribing to my channel by clicking the button below. Thanks for watching.